Back at it, baby. How's it going, Mets fans? It's Wardy here, and we're breaking down the latest here in our Mets pregame show before the series finale against the Houston Astros in Houston. After the Mets took down these same Astros last night by a final score of 3-1. Funny enough, that's the exact same score the Mets actually dropped their opening day game with, and what a difference we saw in 24 hours from Game 1 and Game 2. A lot of excitement yesterday, headlined by the brilliance that was Juan Soto that we explained plenty here on the platform, not only in last night's post-game coverage, which you guys got to make sure to check out in case you haven't already, as well as our Big Mets Updates video that dropped this morning and will be dropping reoccurring every morning for the most part throughout the course of the year, barring changes. That way you guys get a morning recap on top of other MLB-wide topics, not MLB-wide, I apologize, Mets-wide topics that are not necessarily centric to just the game itself, like our nightly prospect reports that we break down in those videos, including Blade Tidwell, who was fantastic for AAA Syracuse yesterday, so that was a lot of fun to break down. Check out that respective content. But today, in our latest pregame show, you guys see the lineups beside me. We're going to break down how the Astros fare in this matchup, how the Mets fare, and yeah, we got a new man playing center field, and he's a former Houston Astro, and Mr. Jose Siri, baby. Very excited to see what Jose will do or lack thereof for the Mets tonight. We'll just have to wait and see. It was great to see Juan Soto get the monkey off his back, and by monkey, I mean not hitting a home run in his first game in a Mets uniform, but surely he does it the second game out there. We're going to deep dive these lineups as well as the pitching matchup. Griffin Canning here facing off against, I'm going to butcher the name probably, but Arguetti, something along those lines. Again, I apologize to my Astros fans that are watching this that maybe you don't appreciate my pronunciation or lack thereof, but I'm doing my best here. So guys, let's get a quick roll call going here in our pregame show, and then we will continue to break everything down here in Metsland. How you doing, everybody? We got Siri in here, we got D, we got Mr. Chicken, we got Shrek's great member, Darren great member going up the list here. We got our guy Sean Daniels great member, Brandon Rosales great member, Darren Rivera in here, great member. As always, come one, come all. We appreciate you guys greatly. Jonathan, how you doing? Going up the list here a little bit more. We got Tim, how are you? D, how you doing? Django Boogs, how you doing? Everybody, thank you, thank you. It really does mean a lot. And guys, very excited to get into this Game 3 between the Mets and the Astros. And in case you guys are wondering what we do here on the platform, we are your #1 stop shop for all things Mets news, rumors, pregame, post-game, and weekly watch parties, in which we will be starting the weekly watch parties as soon as next week. Barring changes, we're eyeing that Saturday game against the Miami Marlins, in which I will be live in the Playback app as well as here on YouTube, simulcasting at the same time. And just to give you guys a quick fill-in as to what Playback is, in case you guys are unaware, I'm very, very excited to get into this right here, right now with each and every one of you. Playback, again, for those that don't know, again, MLB is live on Playback. So this is a universal sports app in which you guys will be able to chime in with MLB watch parties with me, but actually watch the game. Because in order for you to sign up and sign in a Playback, you actually can log in with your MLB TV account should you have an MLB TV subscription. That way, when we do the watch parties, we're actually going to be watching the game in real time together, live reacting as I share play-by-play and just my overall reactions as a Mets fan. That way, you guys get a more intimate look, a more inside look on what is truly Wardy, what's going on in his mind as he's watching and breaking down the Mets game as is actively happening. And the best part is that should you guys maybe not have interest in joining Playback, which I hope you do, but if you don't, that's fine. You can chime in the live show as it'll be simulcasted on YouTube at the same time for a watch party around next Tuesday. The only difference is I can't actually show the game on YouTube, so I'll just be showing you guys a scoreboard. We'll have it automated, all set up without a problem. So a really fun way to interact with you Mets fans, as we'll be doing one, if not multiple watch parties every single week in the Playback app throughout the entire course of the season. And all you guys got to do in order to take part is make sure you have an MLB TV subscription and click that link down below in the description at playback.tv/WardyNYM to join our room. And thank you guys kindly for doing exactly that. Same way that I really appreciate you guys going out of your way, and I apologize, everybody. Just give me 1 second on that front. But again, thank you guys kindly for first chiming in. It really does mean a lot. But now let's get in and let's break down the latest in Mets lane here. All right, guys, let's get back to the pregame show. I apologize. I know you guys are probably fed up by now. For those that don't know what that just was, that is my intro that runs. And unfortunately, I'm a schmuck, and a lot of the times I forget to close the little the icon that I have to make sure that it doesn't pop up right away when I go back to the main slide. So if you had a jump scare for a second, I sincerely apologize, but no less happy to have you guys in here. We got Jonathan, how you doing? Kevin, Gary Goldberg, great member as always. 786. How you doing from Scotland? You love to see that. We got Mets fans from Scotland in the chat. That's absolutely fantastic. James Brown, how you doing? Halsey, how you doing? Let's get the hype going. Love to see that. But guys, let's break down these lineups, and we will start here with the Houston Astros, and then we'll get to our New York Metropolitans and get into all the key details on not only the offensive end, but certainly on the pitching end between Canning and the starter for the Astros. But leading off for the Houston Astros, as a surprise absolutely nobody, is left fielder now this year, veteran bat, and Mr. Jose Altuve. Batting second, who was recently acquired in the Kyle Tucker trade this past offseason from the Chicago Cubs, is Isaac Paredes. Batting third is one of, if not the best left-handed slugger in all the American League, and certainly one of the best in the game today, and that is Mr. Yordan Alvarez at DH. Batting fourth is a veteran infielder at first base that has had some tremendous years with the Arizona Diamondbacks and looks to continue his MLB-wide success now with the Houston Astros, that being in Christian Scott. Batting fifth there, we have Jeremy Pena, who blossomed on the scene early in his career and is hoping to have a really good season this year, which he had stretches of brilliance last year that we saw. Carantini batting sixth there at catcher. Yainer Diaz, a very young, very exciting catcher who looks solid in his first two games, gets rest here in game 3, and they go with the veteran Carantini, the former Milwaukee Brewer, and he's been on an abundance of other teams as well. DeZenzo is batting seventh there and commanding right field. DeZenzo, who is a newcomer over the past year or so for the Astros, if I'm not mistaken, I'd imagine he's another younger player in this mix for them. He gets a start over Cam Smith, their rookie sensation. That was that other key piece acquired for Kyle Tucker and that trade with the Cubs this past offseason. Batting eighth is Mauricio Dubon there at second base, and batting ninth is Chas McCormick, who's always so electric with the glove that we'll see in center. For our New York Metropolitans, everybody, we have Francisco, Mr. Smile Lindor, currently awaiting when he is now going to be a father of 3, as we await to find out the inevitable birth of the future star shortstop for the Mets 20 years from now, and whatever Francisco will be naming his son. We don't know yet. I don't know yet, at least. I'm sure they have it figured out, obviously. But as Mendoza spoke to the media pregame today, he did make it known that it's pretty much a ticking time bomb with Lindor and his son being born. They have no clue when it's going to happen. Lindor said that he's kind of hoping that it might be as soon as like Sunday, because the Mets have the off day tomorrow, and it would be good for them travel-wise for where he is based, where his wife's based right now, I believe in the Orlando area, and I know that they would be giving birth and doing all that in Florida. So I hope for their sake it could happen as soon as tomorrow, but if it happens sometime over the next week, no one should be surprised. At most, Lindor would miss like a game, or at absolute maximum 2, but again, I'm actually pretty happy that this is happening in the early goings of the season, versus I know some Mets fans used to be very selfish and very self-centered and say, how dare you guys give birth, midsummer, leading up to the trade deadline when it's a pivotal time of the year? One, don't be that kind of fan. But secondly, if you're going to be that kind of fan, you should at least be happy by the fact that they are expecting as soon as any day now. So congratulations in advance to the Lindor family. So happy for them. But batting second for the Mets is the one and only, the man who tore a cover off the ball with an absolute screecher to right on a 96 cutter up and in. And that's Juan Mother effing Soto. And yes, we got to talk it like that because he's nothing short of an absolute dog. And I can't believe he's a New York Met. Batting third is our polar bear, Mr. Pete Alonso, with that 700 OPS versus Soto roughly 1,400. We're going to disregard Lindor's because the season just started, and we're going to let that narrative only matter when we think it matters. In the case of Nimmo, batting fourth makes sense. Nimmo getting the fourth spot yet again, facing the right-hander. If this was a lefty, then Vientos would be batting fourth. And speaking of Vientos is batting fifth for the Mets. They're the hot corner, coming off of a strong game last night, 1 for 3 with an RBI double, driving in Brandon Nimmo after being the plate setter that was Brandon, I believe, in the second inning yesterday, as the Mets kick-started their 2-0 lead and then ultimately won 3-1 was your final yesterday. Batting sixth in the DH spot for a second consecutive night is Jesse Winker, which makes sense because Winker and Marte are going to platoon based on matchups, just like how Nimmo and Vientos will flip-flop in the lineup 4 and 5 based on matchups of the starting pitcher. We see number 7 for the Mets here. Batting seventh, rather, is a man who already has 2 opposite field extra base hits this season, and that's Mr. Luis Torrens. I love the fact that Torrens is starting all 3 games of the series. Don't put Hayden Senger in there until you absolutely have to as a late game replacement. Not a guy that you want to have his bat out there much at all, and that's not a personal slight on Senger, but a reality as to why it took a Francisco Alvarez injury and the Mets not having any backup catcher option for Sanger to crack the club after being drafted in the 24th round back in 2018. Great story. Wish him well, but if Sanger's on this team for an extended period of time, I think there's something either going wrong or something going unbelievably right for him as production. Batting 8th, we have Brett the Met Beatty, Brett Hitman Beatty, Brett Bonds Beatty. I don't know what Brett we're going to get tonight, but certainly I hope it's one that at least provides a hit and gets on base for this Metropolitan team. And batting 9th, for the first time this season and for the first time in his professional career in the regular season, we have, yes, everybody, we have it, and Mr. Jose Siri. Jose Siri is batting 9th that we see, getting his first start of the year, and I'm oh so excited to see what he's going to do, especially against his former team, now foe, and the Houston Astros. For those who don't know, Jose Siri has been on a handful of teams in his young career. He's been a part of the organizations of the Houston Astros, the Seattle Mariners, the Cincinnati Reds, the Tampa Bay Rays, and now the New York Mets. And at pitcher, the Mets have Griffin Canning, who they acquired in the early goings of the offseason, coming off of what was nothing short of a tremendous spring training for Griffin Canning. What worked so well with Griffin was deviating away from that fastball, having that sinker cutter usage, the changeup usage, everything about that arsenal deviating away from the four seam is what's led to great success. So expect to see more of that. Hopefully, we don't see any heavy usage of the four seam tonight. If we do, that's probably going to be a recipe for disaster. This Astros team knows Griffin Canning very well during his time with the Angels the past couple years. And for those that don't know, Griffin Canning gave up more home runs than any other eligible starting pitcher in the American League last year. And that was in large part because he was throwing his four seam fastball, which was an absolute meatball, 60% of the time or so. So yeah, let's deviate. Let's get away from that. Let's lock in on the pitches he should be locking in on, and that's a good thing. So Canning, I'm interested to see how he fares tonight. We got Arrighetti there on the bump for the Astros as well, so this is going to be a very intriguing matchup. I would love to hear from you guys in the chat right now if you have a yay or a nay in regards to the Mets lineup 1 through 9. Speed running it for everyone first chiming in again is as follows: Lindor 1, Soto 2, Alonso 3, Nimmo 4, Vientos 5, Winker 6, Torrens 7, Beatty 8, and Siri 9th. Spam in the chat, guys, if you are yaying or naying this Mets lineup. And while you do that, I want to give a quick shout out to our amazing friends and sponsor here at BetUS TV, folks, because they have you covered when it comes to all lines, picks. When it comes to their opinion, it has been fantastic that we have seen in this space. And as you guys can see beside me, they have a great question. I know a lot of you guys can relate with this. For my Jets fans out there, I personally am not a Jets fan. I'm a Steelers fan. So I'm wishing Justin Fields the best of luck. I did not want Fields to leave Pittsburgh whatsoever. So I was kind of butthurt when it happened. I know Aaron Rodgers is inevitably going to be a Steeler barring changes. Russell Wilson's a New York Giant. We talked about that the other day with our awesome sponsor. But now to my Jets fans, I got a big question for you. And again, head over to BetUS TV for your further thoughts on the latest lines, picks across not only NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, all different sports that you have you covered. But the big question is, who are the Jets going to draft here with the number 7 overall pick? I definitely am curious to see what the Jets are going to do. I know it's a very dark horse pick for them to acquire a quarterback like Jackson Dart, but they're not completely opposed to acquiring a quarterback here with this pick. But I would make the argument that it's probably not in the best interest of the Jets to be going out of their way to be drafting a quarterback with this pick. I think that they could draft a quarterback that still fits the need of kind of pairing with Fields, but with Fields still being the go-to guy and him learning off of Fields for the first couple of years that they don't need to acquire in the first round. That's just my very casual point of view. So I'm curious as to where you guys stand. If you're in fact a Jets fan, if you're not, that's perfectly fine too. I'm saying this as a Steelers fan, mind you, but shout out to BetUS TV once more. We appreciate them. But let's see here, everybody. At some point, that early struggle has to change in regards to Lindor. Yes, but here's the thing. Lindor can have his early struggles all he wants if he's going to go on to be an MVP caliber player once he locks in. Ideally, I don't want Francisco Lindor to be struggling at all. I certainly don't like the idea of the guy batting like a hundo the first month and a half of the season the way that it felt like he did last year. But having said that, if Lindor just goes out and does what he's supposed to do, that's the most important thing as we evaluate things in this pregame show. So that's my opinion on it, but I'm curious to know what you guys are as well. Now let's go up in the chat and see if you guys are yaying or naying the lineup. I'm getting pretty much universal yays in the chat. Again, I think you got to either be one, overly pessimistic as a fan, or, you know, two, just a heavy critic for whatever reason. And the third game of the season out of 162 to be naying the lineup. But I say that as a Mets fan, knowing damn well that I get comments under every single thing I do every single day, complaining about the team in some form or fashion, regardless on them winning. Hilariously enough, one of the first comments I saw under my live show last night with over 8,000 total viewers. So thank you guys so much for that. It really did mean a lot. Had a fun time breaking down that Metropolitan first victory of the year last night. But I see one of the first comments as a schmuck saying the Mets lineup sucks. And he's a Mets fan, because I then looked back and see what previous comments he had on the platform, and he was, clearly a Mets fan, but just a heavy critic. And I'm like, we're really doing this? Game 2 of the season, and Buddy's got to be yapping the way he is about the lineup? Like, what are we doing here? D-Mac with the $2 holla says, who do you think goes yard today? Great question. Now, everyone wants Jose Siri to go yard, so I hope it happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that I really do hope that Jose Siri rakes tonight. That'd be fantastic to see. Give me a Jose Siri piss missile left, especially in Houston. They have a little bit of a short porch there that we see in left field. Siri knows it well during his time as an Astro. Why not go out and do that? That's what I got to say about that. But if it ain't going to be Jose Siri, who we know is so unbelievably boomer bust, let's take a look at this entire lineup here. And as I'm evaluating the entire lineup, there are two people that stand out to me not named Jose Siri. One of which is Jesse Winker. I could see Jesse barreling the ball big time tonight. I love how the ball flies in this park as well. Offense is just through the roof when everything's clicking for not only the Mets, but for the Astros when everything's going right. I mean, this could be a home run fest, or it could be another 3-1 outcome, whatever it's going to be. I don't expect it to be a 20-run game like the Yankees just did with 9 home runs, and all thanks to their doctored bats that we saw, which is legal for anyone critiquing it. We can critique things all we want, but give credit where credit's due. That's probably something that we're going to see more teams and more players across Major League Baseball do, and this wasn't new for the Yankees. They actually started this going back throughout the offseason. I saw the early goings of it with changing the knob of the bat a bit, where instead of it having, and McNeil has this too, actually. Does McNeil have this? I'm trying to think. I think there's one active Met that has a bat like this, but don't quote me on it. But what they've done is they've essentially changed the barrel of the bat, where instead of you having your normal startup for your bat and then you have your barrel, it goes up, barrel, and then it slims down a bit towards the end. That way it creates a greater likelihood for the batter when they are making contact to be more in that sweet spot versus it being towards the end of the barrel. So that is kind of the appeal behind it, and it went in hand to a degree in the 9-homer game for the Yankees with Aaron Judge slugging 3 of them, everyone's favorite regular season merchant. And I'm half joking as I say that Judge will probably go down as, if not the best slugger in Major League Baseball history in the regular season, then certainly up there. Obviously, there's heavy debates between himself when you think about Bonds and many others, but I think of who's going to step up in the clutch, who's going to be the guy that's going to not only help lead you throughout the regular season, but be the unsung hero in the clutch, in high leverage, when it comes to bottom of the ninth, say, in a tied ball game. And I think of a guy like Juan Soto more than anyone else. So very happy to say that. And Aaron Judge, wishing him continued success throughout the course of the year. Nothing personal with Aaron, but you know how it is here on the platform. We're Mets fans. You're mad late, no worries, know all about that. And you were mad late because you were dad duty there with Shay, the same way that I'm usually late because of my own Shay. So I know 5 errors. Yes, exactly. Pushing away the greater issue that the Yankees will have this year, which will be a lack of defensive upside. That was their complete demise that we saw in the playoffs last year, especially against the Dodgers, and they took care of business without a problem. I know, Nasty Nestor was nasty today in all the wrong ways. All the wrong ways. It was batting practice at Yankee Stadium with Nestor Cortez making his debut there as a Milwaukee Brewer. 3 pitches, 3 home runs to kickstart the game. First time in MLB history that's happened, if I'm not mistaken. Just ridiculous. But enough Yankee talk. I know I'm actually sounding like a Yankee fan right now, letting Juan Soto live rent-free in my head the way that I'm talking about the Yanks and Aaron Judge. So I apologize for that. Let's reel back in for a second. But outside of Jesse Winker, I could definitely see having a big game today. I feel like Pete's going to drive in one. If it ain't going to be this series, I think it's going to be in Miami. So Alonso, Winker, Siri, and I'm going to put them in tiers on my confidence level in home runs. I'm going with Alonso with the highest confidence level just because it's Alonso. Then I'm going Jose Siri second just because I could see Jose Siri coming out today and being like, I'm going to absolutely rake. I'm going to tear the cover off the ball. And he does that. Jesse Winker, I could actually see more on the contact ability than the home run power between himself and Jose. So I'm going to go Alonso 1, Siri 2, Winker 3. Curious where you guys stand on that front. And I understand that isn't what McNeil has. Correct. That's why I corrected myself. I know that Jeff initially used to have the shaved knob bat, but the barrel was fine. I think everything's fine on that front now. But I'm telling, there's one player I'm blanking on, and I can't remember if it was someone in the Yankees organization or the Mets. Going back to the early goings of spring training, looking at the bat and seeing that the barrel was different. It didn't just start today, was my point. Torrens would be pretty cool. I know, yeah, Torrens was very close to hitting a home run yesterday, so I don't hate that pick entirely whatsoever. I think that that's not necessarily a completely safe pick, but I like that pick for, if you're going to throw some dollars on it, especially Louis Torrens, anytime home run or at least anytime extra base hit guy. I like those odds because he had a fluke of an extra base hit in game one. All thanks to Cam Thomas gifting him that because he couldn't make the diving catch. Shouldn't say a complete fluke because Torrens is the one that made it happen at the end of the day, right? But then yesterday, all the more impressive, Torrens rips a line drive, what was so close to being a home run opposite field off the top of the wall there in Houston. It stays in the park, and that gets him to second base. Soto, I would love to see Soto hit another one today, but I'm trying to mix up the picks besides being unbelievably biased, and you guys knowing exactly what I'm going to say. Goal, I know it was diabolical, but hey, it worked for them, Leo. Can't critique if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? So they're gonna run it back with things on the offensive end there until it doesn't work. And in the case of the Mets and the lineup, there is one thing that I'm most happy about with the Mets offense this year because of guys like Juan Soto coming here and just the stability thanks to the depth that they have 1 through 9. And that's the fact that we're actually going to have pretty damn consistent lineups, hopefully throughout the majority of the season. That 1 through 5 for the Mets should not change at all throughout the course of the year unless things really don't click and don't work. That 1 through 5 should stay the same with the asterisk that Brandon Nimmo and Vientos flip-flop based on right-handed and left-handed matchups. That's what they have and will continue to do throughout the course of the year. But 1 through 5 will be staying the same. 6 through 9, I can see little changes like Torrens is moving up from the 9 spot from the past couple days to batting 7th. They're moving Siri to the 9 spot, which I like a lot because if Siri does get on base, he's a perfect plate setter there with immense speed on the bags for Lindor, Soto, Alonso thereafter. And when we look at the pitching matchups as well, everybody, between Griffin Canning and Arrighetti, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know too much about his game. So let me look briefly a bit more as to what we would be getting from him exactly, and then we'll go from there. He throws gas? Okay, I believe it. This is honestly one of the pitchers I'm most foreign with because especially when it's American League, these guys fluctuate quite a bit on my ball knowledge. And I have no problem saying that because, again, I'm not an expert when it comes to everyone in the league. I'm not even an expert when it comes to my own team to a certain extent. So, but I do feel pretty confident in how the boys are starting the year. I feel pretty good about how my evaluation has been the team heading into the season. And Spencer Arrighetti here, 25-year-old right-hander, for the Houston Astros last season in 145 innings, posted a 4.5 ERA, but had a roughly 11 K per 9 to a 4 walks per 9, and just about a 4 expected ERA. So yeah, guy throws gas, got to get the walks a bit down, get that control right, but he strikes out guys at a pretty damn good clip. Throughout his career, he's been pretty much a mainstay of fluctuating from, we're looking at 11 to even a 14 plus K per 9 throughout the minor leagues in his young career. So certainly there's upside with him, and I'm sure that he's going to be a mainstay in their rotation, not only this year, but potentially for the years to come if you're the Houston Astros. So the Mets are going to have a little bit of a tall task tonight. Thankfully, they handled what was a taller task, in my opinion, on paper yesterday. Well, Hunter Brown, I mean, listen, Hunter Brown posted a 2.5 ERA from like May on. My apologies. From like May on last year. He was one of the best starters in major leagues for the majority of the regular season, especially out of the American League. Doing his best Justin Verlander impression with his windup and everything. If you guys know, saw the side-by-side in the broadcast yesterday, but we've known it for years. Him and his former teammate and Verlander, really, he learned a lot from during his time in Houston there as they were paired together. But what we see with the Mets in this matchup in particular, I see Griffin Canning going out and having success. And I actually feel pretty good about Griffin tonight in large part because he's facing a team that he otherwise knows pretty well. You know, him starting his Mets tenure against an American League team that he's had a lot of reps of in recent years in the Houston Astros, I think gives him a slight upper hand in this matchup versus if it was otherwise kind of a being blind situation. He's never faced Houston before. Maybe he hasn't had a lot of American League matchups because he was in the National League. Not the case here. So I do like that upside that comes with Griffin Canning, and I'm really curious to see how he's going to fare in this matchup, everybody. And if I haven't said it already, I'll say it once more, guys. Please make sure to check out our awesome friends at SeatGeek. That way you guys can get 10% off your next Mets ticket purchase with opening day right around the corner, the home opener rather, or for whatever tickets you want to get for Mets relation, Jets relation, football relation in general, NBA relation, NHL, comedy shows, concerts, you name it. Whatever you guys want ticketing-wise, we have you covered at SeatGeek with our awesome promo code WardyNYM. But if you guys click the unique link in the description of the live show, it'll automatically add the 10% off to your account that you should be notified when you click it and go right into your SeatGeek app should you have it downloaded. Shout out to SeatGeek as always. Jacob, I'm doing fantastic, my man. Hope you're doing well. Thank you kindly for chiming in. We appreciate it. Shay Gating is Shay. Yeah, absolutely. Shay already has actually been gifted a Soto shirt jersey, so we already have some Soto gear for him to rock once he can actually, fit into it. So we're really looking forward to that. But I hope you're doing well. Appreciate you chiming in. That lineup will change 1 through 5 before the end of the year. Bank that. It never stays the same, Wardy. But here's the thing, though, Santos. It doesn't stay the same for us Mets fans, but it usually stays the same for teams that have stability. I think that there's a world where hopefully the Mets don't have too much interchange with their lineup throughout the course of the season. That's kind of the greater point that I was making, was that unlike in previous years where there wasn't consistency, where you didn't have the same stability 1 through 9, the Mets now have that, and unless things change on the health front or the production front or lack thereof with these batters, you'd have to imagine that they're probably going to be rolling out a similar 1 through 9 throughout the majority of the season. Am I doing a watch party? Not today, Nixon. We're doing our watch party starting next week on Tuesday. And that'll be live in the Playback app, which is linked down below in the description, as well as what we will have available on YouTube, as it'll be simulcasted in a fashion like that, too. I don't like Nimmo at cleanup. Listen, I understand some of the reservations with Brandon, but at the same time, I think Nimmo is going to showcase his power ability that we've already seen great flashes of from the past couple seasons. I think Nimmo has all the makings to being a very solid cleanup hitter for the Mets, the same way that I know Vientos will continue to be when he's in those roles, especially against left-handed pitching. So I'm not concerned on Brandon's front. I understand that outside of his plate setting hit yesterday, it's fitting how Nimmo's only good hit yesterday was as a plate setter, but when in situations with either bases loaded or just guys on, he was not able to produce. It was also frustrating when we saw him swing at the first pitch in game 1, if that was, I believe, the 8th inning with bases loaded. But let's also bear in mind that the context of that was Nimmo had a hanging slider right down the pipe from Abreu. It's kind of hard not to swing at that. Unfortunately for him, he got under just enough that made it an easy fly out there to Myers in center. Can we trade for Vladdy? Can we? Yes. Will we? No. Let's see. Hopefully new and improved Canning has better results against Alvarez. Yeah, seriously. I mean, because I don't even want to look at what the stats are against Jordan Alvarez, but we're going to do it. Let's see just how bad Griffin Canning's stats are against Jordan Alvarez. Hold on. Okay, Griffin Canning has allowed 2 home runs, 3 walks, and 7 hits against Jordan Alvarez in his career, and that's across 7 games. So Jordan has been a lock for at minimum 1 hit every game he's faced Griffin Canning, and he's hit 2 home runs in those 7 games. How's Griffin Canning fared overall against the Astros? Let's see how bad the numbers were to this point. Griffin Canning has an 0-3 record with a 6.69 ERA with 28 strikeouts in 9 games against the Astros in his career. How much you want to bet Griffin Canning gives the Mets his best outing against Houston ever tonight? That's what I'm thinking, baby. So in these outings, Canning has touched 6 innings in 3 out of the 9 outings. His latest one was 4.1 innings in which he allowed 4 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed, and 6 hits. The start before that was a lot more respectable. It was 6.1 innings of 7 hit, 3 earned run ball. No home runs allowed at the time. But again, he's given up meatballs in the past. So yeah, but this is why I got to emphasize to each and every one of you, though. I wouldn't be stressed about that. Listen, if Canning gets beat up tonight, he gets beat up tonight. But the reason as to why we shouldn't focus on that too much is just because why are we focusing on past results with Griffin Canning when the entire purpose as to why David Stern signed him and brought him in is to make him what he wasn't previously, but what he can be going forward? If he had the same arsenal, if he was utilizing the four-seam fastball just as much, I would have the same level of concern. But that's not the case here, and that's what I want to reiterate. If Canning does not succeed tonight, it's going to be because still it's Griffin Canning, 1, but 2, did he utilize the four-seam more than what he did throughout spring training? Did he not have command of his arsenal the way that he was hoping to? Again, we're going to find this out, but I am optimistic and I'm feeling good about Griffin Canning heading into this matchup against an Astros team that, don't get me wrong, they're good, they're talented, don't get it twisted, but certainly a team that I think the Mets can take care of, not completely comfortably, but they can take care of and hopefully leg out the series victory today. What's the philosophy behind Beatty and Acuna? Do they draw straws to see who's playing? No. The easy answer behind that is when it is a right-handed starter, Brett Beatty will be starting. When it is a left-handed starter, Luis Angel Acuna will be starting. The Mets are trying to maximize the platoon ability between the two up until we see McNeil come back from injury and go from there. Can't wait to see Max Crank. Yeah, you might see Max Crank today, as a matter of fact. You know, today might be a Max Crank day, especially depending on how many innings we get out of Griffin Canning. I'm actually glad, Darren, you brought up Max Crank, because today might really be a Max Crank day, now that you say that, especially after we utilize Minter, Garrett, Diaz. Trying to think who else we utilized yesterday already. Minter, Stanek as well. And then the day before, we utilized Danny Young. And who came in after Clay Holmes? Who came in as the piggyback in game 1? Why are you blanking so hard right now, Wardy? Who came in for Clay Holmes in game 1? And thank you for the kind words on the hat. I appreciate that. See the home run under that? Shout out to the 7 line. And shout out to my guy, Dave Kaplowitz, who's a great member here in the chat, for sending this my way. Always appreciate that. Who was the reliever that came in for Clay Holmes in game 1? Can someone enlighten me? Because I'm having a massive brain fart right now. Did Reed come in? Did he pitch back-to-back days already? It was Budo. It was Budo. Wait, was it Budo? Brazaban. Thank you. That makes sense why I was blanking. The reason why I was blanking is because Brazaban made this Mets bullpen last minute, in part because of the Paul Blackburn IL stint, in which he's already feeling good, which is great. Alvarez has already started catching, which is awesome too, so the Mets are getting the proper health updates right now. But beyond that, thank you guys for reminding me on Brazo was nails. He went 2.1 shutty. Of course I was having a massive brain fart because we highlighted him immensely just a day or so ago. Brazaban was fantastic. He was sitting 97 on the gun. Oh, he was nasty. Yeah, no, he was good. Yeah, I don't know why that took forever for that to click, but thank you guys for enlightening me. Always appreciate that. The lineup should be Lindor, Nimmo, Soto, Alonso, Vientos. I don't like Alonso batting outside the 3-hole, and here's why. Why have Pete Alonso not get a guaranteed first inning at bat? The more I think about it, the more I'm frustrated with the amount of years that Alonso's been a prototypical 4-hitter when the amount of opportunities that he's had to drive in runs in the first inning were wasted because he wasn't even able to get an at-bat in the game. You need to maximize your best players with their at-bats, and Pete Alonso is one of our best players. He's not number 1, he's not number 2, but he's at minimum number 3, or at least in that conversation, right, when we look on the offensive end. So for all those reasons, you have to go front-loaded with that lineup until you have all the reasons to say, okay, let's deviate away from this and let's do something different. And the case how the Mets are currently shaped up with their lineup 1 through 9, it's in the best interest of them to front-load their power because it isn't as front-loaded as you think. Brandon Nimmo, a healthy Brandon Nimmo can give you 25 to 30 home runs. A healthy Mark Vientos can give you 30 to 40 home runs. A healthy Jesse Winker and Starling Marte platoon should be able to give you a combined 20 plus home runs. A healthy Francisco Alvarez, we know what he can do. He can give you easily 20 to 30 home runs when he's right. Just a big question as to what will we be getting from Alvarez when he returns from injury. In the case of Brett Beatty, massive question mark. We know that. Terren same applies on the home run power. And Jose Siri can run into easily 20 bombs for us, even if he's batting the Mendoza line. So I think when you look at the depth of this lineup, there's certainly a lot of upside, to say the least. Which is more important stat, average or OPS? Good question. And simple answer, OPS all day, every day. And here's why. You can be, let's take Francisco Lindor as a great example. Francisco Lindor can have a putrid first month and a half of the season, which goes in direct hand with his batting average. But if you're going to focus solely on the batting average for Lindor, you would say that for the majority of the season last year, he did not have a successful year. But if you understand the context of the average as it went on month by month, week by week, it got tremendously better. And we saw how good he was throughout the course of the year. OPS is important because you're balancing on-base ability with slugging, whereas average is just your ability to put the ball in play and get on base at minimum, right? Whereas OPS, we're looking on how consistently do you get on base? How consistently do you drive for power, or are you more of a contact guy? If you are a slugger that is in the 450 range to 500, and your OBP is, say, in the 350 range or so, that's really good. If you have yourself as an 800 OPS or higher, that's really good. That's where you want to be as a hitter. So even if you find yourself batting more than Mendoza line, like, let's say, Jose Siri, it matters a lot less if Jose Siri is still pushing for north of an 800 or even a higher OPS. Because that means, while yes, he's swinging and missing at a ridiculous rate, he was in the first percentile in strikeouts last year, but he was striking out left, right, and center. We understand that. But at the same time, if he's slugging north of 500 plus, he's driving in runs. He has the power. Again, it might not be the sexiest type of player, but certainly a guy that's performing to a caliber that you could say, okay, the contact ability isn't there, but the power is and the on-base ability is. That's important. So that, I think, is the easiest way to differentiate the two. And average mattered a lot more in today's game. Shouldn't even say today's game because it's not today's game. Batting average mattered a lot more 15 years ago than what it matters now. Because 15 years ago was still kind of, in the early goings of sabermetrics and the early goings of analytics. Whereas now we have all this easy information at our fingertips, like what we evaluate every single night on the platform through Baseball Savant, through Fangraphs, through Baseball Reference, etc. All just tremendous platforms that give you endless information. That way you know exactly what you're getting out of a player, why they aren't having success versus why they are. It is all there right at our fingertips. You just got to go out and read it and understand what that terminology means, because I understand some of it is a little bit hard for the average fan to understand. So that's where I come in and try to break it down in simple terms. So let's take another good example. And this is one that I reference a lot on the platform. Some of you guys don't like when I do this, but at the same time, I don't care because I'm very passionate about this. And I know this is accurate. What I'm about to tell you is in direct hand with how every single team that has an analytics group evaluates pitching. When you look at Fangraphs, for example, and looking at the ERA of Tyler McGill versus the expected ERA. Let's say his baseline ERA is a 4.3, but his expected ERA is a 3.4. What does that mean? What that means is his baseline ERA is not telling the whole story. That's including some bad funnies, some unfortunate defense behind him that was not accounted for errors, but still hurt his production. When accounting for expected ERA, SI ERA, and all the other advanced metrics when evaluating pitching, these give you a greater grasp of what the pitcher can actually control himself. So if you see, for example, David Pearson is the opposite, or he usually has a solid baseline ERA like he did sub 3 last year, but he had an expected ERA over 4. He's not an analytics darling. He's had a lady luck on his side, and he purposely works his game in part because of the defense around him, because he knows Lindor's going to save his ass with a lot of ground balls. That's where there's a difference. So if you guys want to care about those numbers, that's fine, but understand that these other numbers that come along with it have their reasons too. And it's up to you, especially it's up to a lot of teams each and every offseason when they're investing multiple multiple millions that we see. Ridiculous contracts, long-term for starters, and that's in part why David Stearns is stubborn on investing long-term in starters, because he looks at all the newfound information, and he understands that the ability to invest in a guy long-term, already peaking their career as a starter, is usually not going to overly benefit the team beyond the first couple years. So it's fascinating to evaluate because there's so much that goes into it, and I can tell you as someone who's had these conversations with people and front office regimes that this is in direct hand with their way of thinking. And the more thinkers that they have in their organization, the more that they have an expanded format of their analytics group, it's usually the better, because that way they're maximizing their talent to the best of their abilities, versus if they say have no analytics group, i.e. the Will Ponzian regime, the schmucks that they were. That is a prime example as to they had their raw talent, and the Matt Harveys, the Noah Syndergaards, the Jacob deGroms, the Bartolo Colons, the Zach Wheelers, the Steven Matzes, to a degree. There's an asterisk with that one. They all had their great success to varying degrees. That was not analytically backed nearly as much as it was their pure talent, and the Mets really doing well with more of that old school mentality with their pitching approach at a time in the game where it was still allowed. In today's game, you really can't have that old school mentality. It's not going to work out too well unless you are already such an established pitcher where regardless of where you go, you are going to hone in on your game the way that you want to, because you utilize your own personal information, that you utilize with your own personal team or something along those lines. What the Mets have done is build a pitching lab, build an analytics group, and that way they have all this information right at their fingertips, so that way as soon as the pitcher is done with their start like Griffin Kane today, they know exactly what they need to work on. They know exactly that, okay, they utilized this too much of their arsenal. They were not getting nearly as much horizontal break on their sweeper as they were hoping, and this was the reason why, because it wasn't a proper grip that they were having with the baseball for whatever reason. There's so many little idiosyncrasies that go into pitching development and evaluating said pitchers, but I just want to reiterate that once more because it's a very important part of the game and one that I think gets overlooked a lot depending on who you talk to. Yeah, Jules, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully Canning can give us a solid outing tonight. That's the most important thing. Of course, it's a nationally televised game back-to-back because biggest free agent signings. Oh, absolutely. The Mets have the second highest nationally televised games this year across Major League Baseball, if not the highest. I think Dodgers are 1 and Mets are 2. And yes, that is 1,000% the Juan Soto effect. And no worries, Caleb. I appreciate you letting me know that your notification didn't go off. If you guys have been having notification issues with Wardy for whatever reason, please let me know. I would greatly love to hear it and see it, because if you're having notification issues, then I got to know if I got to change something on my end to try and make that happen. Unfortunately, YouTube can be stubborn at times and not notify you nearly as much as they're supposed to when it comes to this kind of stuff. Chalk Bunt, it's okay that you're saying the rotation sucks. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter how much you think it sucks or how great it is. It's game 3 of the 162, buddy. So, again, what are we even talking about here? The Mets could have the worst rotation on paper throughout the first month of baseball, and I would barely lose sleep over it, knowing the context of the 162, knowing how last year went, and knowing that I'm a Mets fan. So I've been through hell and back. I know not to buy in too suddenly for good or bad reasons. I say that as someone who still buys in and drinks too much of the Kool-Aid at times when things are going right, but that's just where normal fandom comes into play, and I want to be as optimistic as they can. If the Mets give me any reason to be an optimist, if they give me any reason to be positive, I'm going to go and seek that far more than I'm going to go out of my way to just be this internal pessimist the way that I sadly was, which what felt like the entire 2023 season. That was god-awful. Thankfully, we're no longer in that situation. Interesting, House. I haven't thought about that from the notification point of view, but that's certainly an interesting one, and I appreciate you sharing that. Guys, I also have some awesome news to share with each and every one of you. We have relayed this on the platform the past day, and we're going to relay it again because I know a lot of you guys haven't chimed in the previous live shows. We are doing outings at Citi Field this year, guys. We're doing various things at Citi Field this year, but one thing that we're currently in the process of setting up is a Wardy Day at Citi Field where you guys can go and get the full experience hanging out with me pregame, maybe a little bit of a tailgate there in the parking lot, heading in the game together, and us actually hanging out in a full suite together and having an absolute blast in doing so. And as an early feeler, I've been throwing this out to you guys to get an idea as to Do you have interest in hanging out with your guy Wardy at a Mets baseball game? We've already had a lot of early interest, so if you guys want your opportunity to not only catch a game with me, Wardy, but to get on our official priority list, what this means is when we come out with our official announcement on the date of the game, all the little details, the price point of the tickets, all that stuff, everyone that is on our priority list will get first dibs on this event. So much so that our priority list may already be full to the point that unless half you guys go backsies, maybe because you can't afford the ticket, because I understand the prices are going to vary and some people will be inclined to come. Some may not love it because they won't be the cheapest tickets. They're not going to be the most expensive either, and we'll go in direct to him because of the perks that come with the ticket that you're getting beyond just actually hanging out with me at the game. There's going to be a lot of other fun things that go along with it. Really cool. But as a feeler to you guys, if you guys want to be a part of the priority list, that way you're essentially part of the pre-sale, check out my email that's down below in the description of the live show here. It's officialwardynym@gmail.com. Send me the following things: your full name and how many tickets you would have interest in attending the Wardy event at Citi Field. Again, further details will be coming out in the near future, but we want to get an idea first as to how many people have interest in this, how many people are willing to go out of their way to sign up to be part of the priority list, because if you're doing that already, then we may already sell out our first rollout on this with just our pre-sale alone, just with our priority list. If that's the case, then we'll double up and expand it to, instead of a 1-suite situation, then a 2-suite potentially. So it's all indicative on the interest from each and every one of you. So again, guys, if you want to partake in it, check out the email down below in the description, officialwardynym@gmail.com. Send your name and tickets, the number of tickets that you would want to partake in the event. And I will tell you guys right now, as things are currently standing, it will be later in the summer. We will be having events happen before that, but they will not be the exact same. There's going to be various events we're doing right now. I just can't tell you verbatim what they are yet because we're in the process of going back and forth. Everything's looking good right now, but we're just hammering out the details at this point in time. So again, thank you guys kindly for that. I cannot wait to hang out with you guys at the ballpark this year. Something that I've done in the past with some fans, kind of one-off situations where fans have sent me tickets. I've gotten a chance to hang out with them like I will be doing again this year. Never opposed to doing stuff like that, but we haven't gotten the group outings going yet, so now we're actually going to be doing that, which I'm pumped up for. D-Mac with a $5 holla states the following: good opportunity for Beatty to show he can catch up to a plus fastball. If he goes yard, I will get a Beatty jersey and wear for 1 week. I love that. All right, guys, we need Brett Beatty to rip a home run tonight, especially because of the fact that D-Mac will rock a jersey for an entire week if it in fact happens. So let's hope that is in fact the reality. Caleb in the chat says, Canning is going to go 7 innings with 8 Ks, 3 walks, 2 hits, and 1 earned run. I hope so, my man. I need the series end so I can go back to supporting you. Oh, Jules, I know, because you're the Astros fan, right, Jules? That's right. That's right. And again, I appreciate that. It's okay. Jules, you're a great example of a lot of opposing fans on the platform. You're like, I love Wardy, not a Mets fan, can't root for them when they're actively playing my team. That's okay. I appreciate you going out of your way to chime in the content, no less. What do I think about Diaz said about his velocity from spring training last night? It's good. It's good. I have very little concerns on the velocity front with Edwin Diaz. And it was a further narrative thrown by just, again, in my opinion, I'm actually going to refrain with what I was about to say because there's no reason for me to go and out a report or an article or anything like that when I have been in part of the regime, part of the media in the sense of when I talk about things, I've certainly over-exaggerated things at times and my initial reactions to them, whether they're good or bad things. So I'm not going to go and rag on anyone that has spoken specifically on Edwin's velocity in a negative fashion here. I will just tell you that I really am not overly concerned. I don't think you guys should be either. He was actually a slight tick higher on his average velocity with his fastball yesterday than he was last season. So that's definitely a step in the right direction. If you ask me, the most important thing is that he had full command of the zone, full command of the arsenal. Mets are your NL team, I gotcha. So for context, my American League team is the Baltimore Orioles. I have my infatuation with the Seattle Mariners, but I need their offense to be competent for me to have more interest in what I currently do in them. I know you probably don't love that as an Astros fan. Don't have too much ill will with Houston personally. I've always been a big Jose Altuve fan. Some controversy came into play with the cheating scandal naturally, but from everything that I learned, Altuve was not the guy that was trying to spearhead that situation, but rather the opposite. I know there's controversy with him not taking his jersey off and maybe lying about what the reason was. People think he had a buzzer on him. I'm not entirely sure sure how true that is. All I can tell you is that I don't really have any problems with Houston outside of the fact that I hope the Mets kick their teeth in tonight and win the series finale for obvious reasons. The same way that you hope that you curb stomp my Mets. All in good fun. Jules, Jules, if that's a deal, Jules, if you're going to unsubscribe when I was literally just supporting Jose Altuve, I don't know what else to tell you. I was literally advocating for him. Literally saying that, but okay. I literally went on a tangent yesterday in pregame, exactly that, how I think Jose Altuve gets too much flack for that scandal because everyone else was doing it while he was the most vocal man in the clubhouse opposed to it. I'm well aware. That's hilarious, though. All right, guys, that is about going to do it, though, for our pregame show. I want to thank you all so much again for chiming in live on a replay. It really does mean a lot. Be on the lookout as we'll be live directly after tonight's game, hopefully after a series victory. If not, regardless, we're going to break it all down for you. Mets have an off day tomorrow, which I appreciate because I have been absolutely speed running since the season has started, so I'll get a bit of a breather tomorrow. We can all kind of relax and get set for that series in Miami that kickstarts on Monday. But, guys, thank you once more. I greatly appreciate that. You all have a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this.